It's about time we have a discussion about JonTron. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
In this corner, Grump. I'm a Grump. In the other corner, not so Grump. Let's get the versus!
Yes, the ever-controversial Game Grumps vs. Nickelodeon Guts Episode 1, which occurred during a time in Game Grumps history widely known as the JonTron era. You've probably seen the original video because, seriously, people are still arguing about it to this day. But if by chance you haven't, you probably should go watch that before continuing this video. Make sure you come back to this one though, because there's about a 50% chance that you're going to come away from that video with the wrong opinion, and you need someone to correct you. Basically, this dispute boils down to John figuring out the controls of the game and being unwilling to share that information with Aaron because doing so would have, in John's words, given Aaron a quote-unquote competitive advantage, and later equates his knowledge of the control scheme to a strategic advantage, claiming that it's fair for him not to share this strategy because he figured it out on his own, which he probably did so by accident.
Or maybe it was genetic superiority.
Aaron, on the other hand, argues that John is obligated to share this control scheme information with him because that would put them on equal footing in terms of knowledge and allow them to compete purely on ability. Because without knowing the controls, Aaron, quote-unquote, automatically loses. This brief conflict has spawned many debates in the Game Grumps fan community over the years, with many arguing fiercely on both sides. My observation of these debates amongst the fan base has led me to believe that the conflict is fueled more by the divergent cults of personality that Aaron and John's characters have fostered, than thoughtful analysis of the ethical questions that the conflict raises. In truth, I've found myself on both sides of this argument before, and for varying reasons, none of which, it turns out, were intellectually honest. In recent times, however, I've reevaluated my stance through a more stringent philosophical lens, and I've come to a conclusion that I think is logically consistent with the ethical standards applicable to the debate. In order for us to come to a meaningful conclusion on this issue, we need to first establish what paradigm we are using to judge the ethical ramifications of the debate. You see, from a strictly hedonistic viewpoint, JonTron absolutely would be right, as he discovered, even if by accident, the way to gain a competitive advantage and win. But because Game Grumps Vs. is presumably a sporting environment, where skill and ability are tested and a winner and loser are determined, I submit that the ethics of sportsmanship should be the guiding principle for this debate. And sportsmanship isn't about winning at all costs, it's about winning within an established framework of rules. The way I see it, sporting competition can be broken down into two major facets: ability and knowledge. Ability would encompass things like physical strength, skill, technique, and wit, whereas knowledge would encompass things like an understanding of how the systems and rules of the competition work. Where I don't think that the abilities of the competitors have to be perfectly matched in order for a quote-unquote fair competition to occur, I do submit that the knowledge must absolutely be equal, because the aspects of competition that knowledge encompasses are fixed, or in other words, binary, whereas strength, skill, wit, and technique are all variables that can be used in many combinations to secure victory within the framework created by the rules and systems of the competition. John's argument equates the knowledge of the control scheme with that of a technique or skill in a physical competition. This is a false equivalence though. Unlike a physical competition where almost an infinite number of possible inputs could lead to a nearly infinite number of outcomes, video game code is completely binary. The control scheme dictates that there is exactly one combination of inputs that can lead to a certain output. No amount of ability in other areas can overcome this. If John and Aaron were to, say, actually be competing on the show Nickelodeon Guts, Aaron could not reasonably demand that John show him his technique for sticking the landing back on the balance beam, because the coordination and skill required to perform that task is inherent to the test of ability that is the competition itself. However, in the video game, sticking the landing is literally accomplished by pressing a specific button. Therefore, I submit that, for the purposes of this argument, the control scheme falls under the category of knowledge rather than ability. So in conclusion, if the objective of Game Grumps vs. Nickelodeon Guts Episode 1 was to pit John and Aaron's abilities against one another within the framework of the rules and systems of the game Nickelodeon Guts for the Super Nintendo, then by withholding from Aaron the knowledge of the control scheme, however he may have gained it, John absolutely was in the wrong. He created and perpetuated an environment where he held an unfair competitive advantage and effectively secured his victory through unjust means. So hopefully, now that I have laid this out in clear philosophical terms and used logic to come to a conclusion, this argument can be laid to rest. And if you still disagree, then you're probably just an inferior human being whose opinion doesn't matter anyway.
This is my time!
Hey, I just wanted to say, if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll notice that this video was a pretty big departure from my normal style. Don't worry, though, if you like that goofy, edited, meaningless parody stuff. I'll still be doing that kind of stuff whenever the mood strikes me, but I'm trying to branch out into more analytical, philosophical opinion pieces and stuff like that on subjects like video games, anime, other content creators, etc. I figured that, due to my credentials as a privileged white cisgendered American male with an internet connection, it's really my obligation to spout off every probably ill-informed opinion that comes to my mind. So I hope you will join me on this journey of self-expression. Thanks for watching.